I'm your host, Kelly Morgan, indie author and indie publisher. Welcome to another episode of The Author's Mic. Welcome to today's episode. Hey everyone, Kelly here. Welcome to another episode of The Author's Mic. And you guys know today is Monday because I have a guest. Welcome, Kathy Bailey. She is an author. She is here to share her books and her story and her journey with us. Kathy, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. So I always like to ask people, I always start off like, how did you even start this author journey? Like, how did you get here? Was it intentional? Was it on purpose? Like, how did you become an author?
Well, that's a great question. So for me, my first novel is called Nemesis, and it's about the crime in Memphis, Tennessee. And I always lived in North Mississippi, which was very close to Memphis. And, always knew growing up that you got to kind of watch where you go in Memphis because of the crime. Well, went through an unexpected divorce, and my grown daughters ended up moving to Memphis. And I'm like, hold the phone. Did you not get the memo? You don't live in Memphis. I mean, you don't live in Memphis. It's just there's some scary areas there. And so anyway, I had to get over that because you can't control what your grown kids do. And so my oldest one was like, Mom, you're just being too overprotective. Why don't you move up here close to me? And so I'm like, okay, can't beat them, join them. So I did that. I bought a house near, like just right around the corner from my oldest daughter, and renovated it and got moved in. And the very first night I moved in, I heard gunshots. And I was like, oh no, 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 I'm not doing this. And so it just, fear just grabbed my heart for my kids, because they're 30 something and they deserve the right to go to restaurants, to hang out with their friends and things like that. But unfortunately, the crime had escalated so much for Memphis that we were number one in the whole United States of America. This was a couple of years ago. We were number one in crime per capita, and so anyway, I was seeing all of these news reports on a daily basis, and my heart was just gripped with fear, like I said. And, of course, as a mom, I'm going to tell my daughters, listen, don't go over there. Don't do this. You can't go over there. It's too dangerous. There was, somebody killed over there this week. And so they're finally like, Mom, you have to stop. You have to stop. And so I was like, okay, the idea occurred to me. The pen is mightier than the sword. And so I started writing. I started writing. I just poured out my heart into this story. And I mean, I can't even tell you how it came together. I mean, this is it right here. And I don't know if you can see it. It might be reversed or whatever, but
No, we can see it. Nemesis.
it's called Nemesis, and underneath it, it says Memphis, kind of like in a shadow word, if you could see that. But it just poured out of me. I mean, it just poured out of me. And so I'm like, by the time I finished that, I was like, I'm a writer, just a dadgum writer. And so anyway, I mean, I had a couple of friends read it, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, Kathy, I mean, I had it edited and everything with a professional editor, but they absolutely loved the story." But of course, as you know, I've listened to a couple of your podcasts. The thing is, finding or the marketing, after you write a book is so challenging. And most authors, we want to spend our time and energy on the creative part of it. And then when you get to the marketing, it's like, oh dear, what now? you know?
That's the hard part. I think, sometimes we think, what an accomplishment. I wrote this book and I even got it up on a platform, right? I got it up on
Yeah.
Amazon or Barnes and Noble or whatever. And then you're like, but nobody told me I had to do all of this marketing outside of just posting on Instagram or whatever. It's like a
Yeah.
whole thing. And and then like who's your audience and all of these things come into play. And like none of us are, I don't have a degree in marketing,
Me
right?
either.
And you feel like you
Yeah.
need one almost to try to get through it. So that's one of the things that why I started the podcast and what I do is to help people marketing because I know what that feels like.
I love that. I know. I would like to do that too if I could ever find the time because it is so beneficial, to help authors.
Yeah, and like you've got your book Nemesis that's in print, and you said it's a trilogy. Is it a trilogy?
It's going to be. So I have part two in my head, right now.
And so when is part two? When are you actually going to like sit down and
Oh
actually
my
start
gosh.
writing part two? Because it sounds like you wrote Nemesis as a way to deal with your fear, right? So
Yeah.
it was kind of therapy, right?
I would say so. And just an explanation, exploring reasons why, people end up in a life of crime. And I've always been fascinated with human behavior. It's like that's been the topic of study my entire life. And because I think I had my own issues and I didn't even understand myself a lot, when I was growing up. And so it's complicated, like I don't know, sometimes this would go into a whole nother subject, but parents back in, I guess, like when my parents were around, they kind of come from that silent generation. And I guess I'm Gen X, so I was raised like that. And I don't think my parents hurt me with intent, you know, but still there were things I feel like I didn't get as a child that I struggled with, most of my life, just with, I guess, validation of or worthiness as a human being or just feeling loved and accepted and struggle with that. And, for a long time, and a lot of people struggle with that, I think. And it's so when you think about these people who are the life of crime and how they choose that, it's crazy. And so part of Nemesis, I explored that in a very interesting way. I mean, it's fiction and it's a psychological thriller, so you have to be open-minded when you read it. But I explore some ideas about that, about how these young men, how do they get to the point where they think this is okay to shoot guns and drive up and down the interstate and just kill people over nothing. And how do they get to that point? And so I explored a lot of that. And you may or may, I'm sure you know this, but I mean, Memphis is, there's a lot of racism still in Memphis, and I hate that. And I would love to be part of the solution to that, honestly. But again, it goes back to, excuse me, understanding human behavior and why people end up the way they do. Why do people think the way they do?
Right.
Where, how do they get to that point?
Yeah, I think that's one of the beauties of being a writer is because you can take all of these ideas and you can just kind of explore them outside of the box. I think for racism, I think when we are ready to get over what we look like and
Yeah,
really start paying attention to who we are, being our
yeah,
authentic selves, regardless of
exactly,
what we look like. It's irrelevant what we look like, because
exactly,
we can't change it, right? You are what you
exactly.
are. And so, but if we get the opportunity to be authentic, and like I was telling somebody the other day, the world would be fantastic if we would all just be just a little bit kinder to one another. And
Just be
kindness
kind.
is free. It's free. It won't cost you anything.
Exactly. I mean, that's what we need. But kind of back to this idea about the criminals, I think a lot of these young men, of course, grow up in single parent homes, and they grow up with this mentality that this is normal. This is normal. This is what you do. You go out and you take what you want or need, and they end up having multiple baby mamas. That's what they call it. And and then they're out trying to provide for their babies and their baby mamas. And so in if you think about it, that's actually a good thing. That's a good motive to provide for your family. But the way they're going about it is dangerous, and it's not right, and it's not fair. And I started looking at some of these victims in Memphis, and it broke my heart. I mean, one thing after another kind of just fell into my lap. I was in the dentist office one day, and I was looking at one of the magazines in there, and it was this story about the president of the Chamber of Commerce in Memphis, and his name was Phil Trineri, and this was back in 2017. I didn't know the man personally, but I read some about him, and he was very lively. He was very active in the community. And part of his job was to bring business to Memphis. And so I think, there were some, I forgot what it was called, but it was some kind of run or something downtown. And I think he was in that run, and he was living downtown. And so after it was over, he was walking home, and these two people approached him in a vehicle to steal his wallet, I think, and they ended up killing him. And, it was such a tragedy. He tried to escape, and he was walking like down one of the streets downtown, and he ended up just collapsing in front of Memphis Farmers Market. And that's such a nice area of downtown. And so from that story, I mean, I have a mama's heart, and I just wept over that. It just how sad, how unfair that is. And then I started really paying attention to a lot of the victims, and there was just one after another. Just real quick, there was a 30-year-old doctor who came here to Memphis, Tennessee from Russia. I can't pronounce his name, but he was 30 years old, and he was working at St. Jude, I think. And he was out downtown with his wife and their 2-year-old child. And on a Sunday afternoon, and someone came up to steal his money. They wanted his money, and he gave it to them. He gave them his wallet, but they killed him anyway. And just, it's like things like that. Another man was at one of the breweries downtown, and it was getting close to the holidays, and he would frequent down there quite a bit. And I think he was bringing some Christmas cards or something to the staff, and he was waiting there. And another couple was parking outside to come in, and they kind of ran in because someone was trying to attack them. And so this man went outside to sort of protect them while somebody else called 911. And when he went out there, the criminal man killed him, killed the man who was trying to protect the couple,
Mm.
stabbed him. And, so it's just one story like this after another. And I mean, it's torn me up. I mean, like I said, I have a mama's heart. And if you can just imagine what some of these families have had to just go through, and a lot of the things are just not the murders are not even solved. And so anyway, this whole story, I mean, it was just truly kind of birthed through that, and just to kind of honor the victims, and because I mean their life mattered, and it should have never happened. It
Yeah,
should have never happened.
very, very sad.
So so I don't know. I'm just very, very empathetic to that, and writing the book was sort of my way to raise a flag that, hey, we need help here. Memphis needs help. Hey, Memphis, we're in trouble. And but we've gotten a lot of attention. And as you know, the president has sent the National Guard here and some of the other agencies to help with it. And, I hope that that will kind of turn things around because this has got a lot of good history and heritage, with music, and Elvis was here and just BB King and so many good things. And it's just such a shame. And I know we're not the only city. There's a lot of major cities struggling right now, but dang, we need to be safe where we live.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed, 100%. So, Kathy, if people are interested in connecting with you and learning more about you and the book and how to get the book, how do we do that?
Well, right now I'm working on a website. I don't have it up just yet, but I am on social media. I'm on Facebook just as Kathy Bailey, and then on TikTok and Instagram, it's the same handle. It's author underscore Kathy D Bailey.
Gotcha.
And so there's that. And I'm going to be releasing 3 books here pretty soon, and I'm very excited about that. So I don't know if you have time to hear some of that too, but
So the books that you're releasing, are they ready to go? Are you still
yes,
have you written them yet?
they're written. They're written.
And so
So
how are you going to release them, like on your website? Are they going to be on social media? Like, are you
on
launching them?
Amazon. They'll be on Amazon. But it's just it's different. One of them is about a single mom, the struggles of a single mom, and it's hilarious. I mean, it's truly hilarious. Again, it explores, the relationships and things like that, and just the things that you go through with your adult children sometimes, and you become the target of their frustrations, and which is never fun. And also, I am going to have my first grandbaby here pretty soon. So, something else I truly believe in is the fact that talking about my parents' generation, they didn't really tell us about reproduction or anything like that, or how the body works. And so, I think we need a good little story for children to kind of explain that or lay the foundation of that in a very whimsical, childlike way. So I wrote a book it's a children's illustrated book for my little grandbaby, and it's called A Womb with a View. So that's going to be coming out soon, and I'm very excited about that too.
Very, very cool. Well, Kathy, I want to thank you for being a part of the Author's Mic. I'll make sure that all of the information, your links are in the description so that people can get to you. Let me just do my laundry list of things before I let everybody go. Number one, you guys, if you guys are interested in sharing this platform, it's very easy. Guests are every Monday. Go to my website, hit the link that says be a guest, and boom, you're a guest. It's literally that easy. If you are thinking, Kelly, I would love to know how to write a book, but I'm stuck, I got you. I got a 44-page guide on my website. It's called So You Want to Write a Book. It's free. Go download it, start your author journey. If you're interested in supporting me, I've got 2 books out there. Wait for it and You Sound White. You can get them from me directly from my website or wherever good books are sold. No pressure there. And then lastly, if you are an author and reader and you want to join our book club, it's called the Indie Reader Society. All the information is on the website. You can join us as a reader. We would love to have you. You can join us as an author and pitch your book to us. We only support indie authors. So, Kathy, I always like to ask everybody before I go, if you could give an author one piece of advice, somebody who's maybe, listening to you thinking, man, she's got this book out there and she's got these other books coming out. And, what can you tell somebody who's maybe starting out, who is like, I want to be where you are. What can you tell me?
Oh my gosh, just do it. I mean, just do it. Open up Microsoft Word and just start. That's how I did. I didn't necessarily have a plan or an outline or anything. Now, I did sort of try to organize my thoughts as time went on, but just start writing. Let those ideas just flow onto the paper from your mind, from your imagination. Let it just flow to the page. And then you can worry about fixing it or organizing it later, but just get it out, get it out.